Texas falls in Stillwater. Jarrett Elliott in Texas volleyball seeking 8th straight Big 12 title. And it's time for some hoops around the 40 acres. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Monday night. Luke Hendry alongside Nick Koolholtz, and we welcome you into College Press Box. Nick, Texas looking to make it 7 straight wins this past Saturday.
That's right, Luke. Coming off of the bye week, Coach Tom Herman's team returned to the gridiron in Stillwater, Oklahoma as they took on Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State Cowboys. Let's head down to Boone Pickens Stadium for the highlights. 2 Texas senior defensive backs out for the first quarter, and the Pokes would make them pay. Senior quarterback Taylor Cornelius finds his #1 receiver, Kylan Wallace, over the middle. The 40-yard score puts OSU up early, but Texas would strike back right away. Sophomore QB Sam Ellinger keeps it himself, makes a defender miss, and finds his way into the end zone. We're knotted up at 7. 4th and 1, the Texas defense with a chance to get off the field, but Cornelius says, I don't think so. He finds Jelani Woods, and the Cowboys are starting to take control. Another 4th and 1, another mistake by the Horns defense. Chris Boyd, who had timing issues all week, misjumps the pass. Wallace hauls in his second TD of the half. Later on, end of the third quarter, Texas in desperate need of a big play, and they get one. Ellinger connects with true freshman running back Keontae Ingram from 22 yards out. Mid-fourth quarter, B.J. Foster can't bring down Cornelius, who stays on his feet and dives in for the 10-yard score. Later on, under 2 minutes to play, senior Trey Watson scores on the 1-yard rush and makes it a 3-point game. Texas with a chance if the defense can get a stop, but they can't. And things get a little chippy at the end of this one. Mike Gundy loving the result of Saturday's matchup. Tom Herman, not so much. Oklahoma State wins this one 38-35.
Tom Herman addressed the media earlier today and says the program's big picture goals have not changed despite the loss in Stillwater.
We're at a point in our program, again, I've said it numerous times, but it bears repeating, that our best is good enough to compete with and beat pretty much anybody in the country. But when we're not at our best and we're getting the other team's best, we're not good enough yet to overcome that. And our guys know that. Oklahoma State played great. Played fantastic. The exciting thing is we've still got all of our big picture goals ahead of us. I don't talk big picture with them very often, but I did yesterday and Saturday after the game in the locker room. And the big picture is that we've still got all of our goals in terms of competing for the conference championship ahead of us.
Still eyeing that game on December 2nd, the Big 12 championship, as I'm joined by football analyst Jonathan Polasic and Bailey Wald. Bailey and Jonathan, did Texas get exposed on Saturday in Stillwater?
I really don't think exposed is the right word. Texas just got off to another one of those slow starts like they have pretty much all season. USC, TCU, Oklahoma, Maryland, with the exception of the Maryland game. Texas was able to overcome those slow starts. But this game, Oklahoma State, the 17 first quarter points, a little too much for this Texas team. It didn't help that you had Devontae Davis and Chris Boyd, your 2 starting cornerbacks, out. The freshmen who replaced them for that first quarter looked a little bit overwhelmed. Texas, they just weren't in sync that entire first half. Sam Ellinger did not look sharp. Colin Johnson, little Jordan Humphrey had some uncharacteristic drops, and the defense just had too many blown assignments throughout the game. It wasn't just the first half or the first quarter, it was throughout the game. Couldn't stop a simple zone read against Taylor Cornelius, who is a good quarterback, not that athletic, should be able to stop him. Texas just was unable to. Another thing you have to take into consideration is the fact that they were playing in Stillwater in prime time. It was their homecoming game. They're a desperate team. And the fact that you have, when you're inside that stadium, the fans are literally on top of the field, on top of the players. It's not an ideal environment for this Texas team to go in and play.
Stillwater, always a difficult place to play. Bailey, how would you assess Texas's loss on Saturday in Stillwater?
I definitely agree with Jonathan. I don't think they were exposed. They did get off to a rough start, not having a few of their key players, as Jonathan mentioned, and with Oklahoma State scoring on the first drive, really just setting how badly they want to win that game. But had they not been able to pick themselves up after 2 separate 17-point deficits, both in the second quarter, then I think maybe you could have said that they had been exposed in that game. But they were able to recover really well, only losing down by 3. Also, while it was not the best game for the team, Sam Ellinger recorded his 2nd most yards and his 2nd longest pass of the season, so he had a really great game.
Sam Ellinger did look good. 2 rushing TDs, 2 passing TDs, but nonetheless, Texas falling to Oklahoma State. They're now 6-2 overall and 4-1 in Big 12 play. Still plenty of hopes, though, for that Big 12 championship game in December. Guys, I want to ask you all, does the outlook change at all for the Texas Longhorn football program?
Well, the thing that we have to remember is that the big picture for Texas was always to contend for the Big 12 championship. Yes, Texas rose all the way to as high as number 6 in the country, and so people were talking playoffs. I don't think that was really a realistic goal that could be attained throughout the course of the season. You had the loss to Maryland, and Texas was bound to slip up at some point in the Big 12. Texas was always just looking to contend for that Big 12 title. They still have that opportunity. They're still tied first place in the Big 12 with Oklahoma and West Virginia. They already have the head-to-head matchup win against Oklahoma. If they take care of business against West Virginia, they're almost assured of a spot in that Big 12 title game. But realistically, I see Texas dropping at least 1 or 2 more games in the Big 12, most likely to West Virginia and potentially Texas Tech.
Really, 2 more losses in the Big 12. Bailey, how would you say the outlook for the Texas football program changes after a loss to Oklahoma State?
I really don't think that it changes at all. All season they've been talking about having a 1-0 week, and while they didn't have one this weekend, I really think that that is what they need to continue focusing on and not at all looking at the big picture of how their season could end. Seeing how well they moved on after losing to Maryland in week 1, I don't think that this loss alone will change the outcome of their season unless they struggle against West Virginia and aren't able to pick up another win. They're ranked number 1 in the Big 12 right now, tied with OU and West Virginia, which means they really need to win the rest of their games if they still want a shot at the Big 12 title. But I think that with what's happened so far, they can keep their goals the same.
You mentioned West Virginia there, the 12th ranked Mountaineers coming to Austin this Saturday. Tom Herman said earlier today that he and his program will stay focused on this week's matchup.
Got a really good West Virginia team coming in, top 15, top 10 team. I don't know what the rankings are, but they're really good with only 1 loss and obviously in contention for the Heisman Trophy back there at quarterback too. So, you know, our guys are disappointed, but they're eager to have another top 25 team coming into DKR with an opportunity to solidify our spot atop the Big 12 standings.
Now Texas will welcome West Virginia to Austin this Saturday. The Mountaineers also one of the teams with just 1 loss in the Big 12. Bailey and Jonathan, how do the Longhorns rebound from the loss in Stillwater and walk away with a win this Saturday?
Well, I really think that they need to win the game this weekend, but it won't necessarily save their season. A win against West Virginia at home is going to be really different than winning against Tech away. And so I really think that that game against Tech is going to be the game that'll make or break their season. For them to win this weekend, they need every single player to be on their A game, to be showing up and on time, and to really start from the beginning of the game and giving it their all, because they've had a bunch of really slow starts this season. And I think that if they start from the very beginning, they'll be able to win this game.
Fast start would be great. Back at DKR, get the crowd involved. Jonathan, how do you think Texas defeats the Mountaineers on Saturday?
Well, one thing that we have to remember is that 1 loss to Oklahoma State, which is actually a pretty good team, isn't going to tank the rest of the season for the Longhorns. It depends on how they respond. Texas, they really need to start fast. If they start slow like they have against Oklahoma State, OU, TCU, USC, they've got high-powered teams still coming in West Virginia, Texas Tech. They can't afford to start slow. They're not built to come back from these big deficits. The fact that Texas was able to almost nearly come back against Oklahoma State says a lot about the maturity of this team. But Texas is best when they're playing ahead in the second half, so they can use that ball control offense that they're used to. Keontae Ingram running the ball, Trey Watson, Daniel Young, Sam Ehlinger, running that clock down so that they keep the opposing offense off the field. And Tom Herman said that the best way to stop this West Virginia team is to keep them off the field. The Texas offense needs to play a phenomenal game. They need to hold on to the ball for, I think, probably about 35 minutes to really give themselves a shot in beating them this weekend.
Keeping West Virginia off the field, quarterback for the Mountaineers, Will Grier, not just one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, but one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Plenty of Big 12 implications on the line right here in Austin this weekend. A 2:30 kick at DKR versus the 12th ranked West Virginia Mountaineers. Well, we got plenty more College Press Box coming up after a quick break. Texas volleyball seeking a Big 12 title for an 8th straight season. We'll be right back. Welcome back into College Press Box. Luke Kendry alongside Nick Koolholtz. Texas volleyball, one of the most successful programs on the 40 acres. Well, they seem to be eyeing yet another Big 12 title this season.
Yeah, they took another huge step towards that accomplishment when they played host to the arch-rival Oklahoma Sooners this past weekend. Texas not only looked to defeat the Crimson and Cream, but also improved to 9-1 in Big 12 conference play. TSTV's very own Daniel Shee was at Gregory Gym on Saturday and has more on the matchup.
The Red River Showdown moved to the volleyball court as number 8 Texas Longhorns faced the Oklahoma Sooners on Saturday at Gregory Gym. Texas will dominate the first and second set, outscoring Oklahoma by a total of 15 points through the first 2 sets. However, the Sooners came out strong in the third and took a 5-point lead at one point. But Texas would mount a comeback and finish the sweep against their conference rival.
I think it went great. We came out prepared, and I think we played great all the way through the game. Like, of course, like they came out in the third set, like it's a rivalry game. Like they didn't want to get swept, so of course they came out guns blazing, and so we just had to respond. Like it took us a while to figure out how to do it, but we did it at the end, and we got the job done.
I thought we started off well. And we're pretty consistent, and then we kind of just slowly kind of lost our focus a little bit and just kind of played through the motions. But you know, it's an emotional game, and I'm happy we're going 3-0.
Texas Longhorns faced the Oklahoma Sooners 2 weeks ago in Norman. They had to spend 5 sets to outlast the Sooners, but today the Longhorns swept the Sooners in 3 sets. Coach Elliott believes preparation and defense was the key to their success today.
We obviously got a lot of film. We knew what they would be doing from a blocking scheme and how we could counter that with our offense. And you know, it was more about our execution. You know, game 1 I think we hit high 400s, and then we kind of just our execution wasn't as high as it could have been.
Welcoming a traditional rival like Oklahoma to Austin, the Gregory Gym was sold out once again. Morgan Johnson believed it had a significant impact on the Texas Longhorns.
And as soon as the crowd like locked in, I think Yazzie got like the block, and like in that moment the crowd was super loud for the rest of the game, and like that helped so much getting us even more pumped, more hyped up, more focused. So I think it played a huge part.
Texas will face TCU at 7 p.m. on Wednesday to continue the 4-game homestand as the Horns set their eyes to one of the top 4 seeds in the country. From Gregory Gym in Austin, Texas, I'm Daniel Shee, TSTV Sport.
I'm now joined by the wonderful volleyball expert Madison Hager, here to talk more about the win over Oklahoma. Madison, earlier in the month, Texas lost their first Big 12 game in almost 2 years. They've won 4 straight since then, including 3 consecutive sweeps. Is it fair to say the Horns have hit their midseason groove?
I think it is fair to say that the Horns have hit their midseason groove. 3 out of the 4 losses have been from away games, one of those being the game against Kansas, which they got their first loss in conference play in 2 years. And also, their only loss at home has been against Stanford, who is number 1 right now, and also who has beat them the past 2 years in the NCAA tournament. So there was no big surprise there, no shocker. But on the bright side, Texas has won the last 4 games, and 3 out of the 4 games have been sweeps. So Texas really is in their midseason groove. So if they can keep that up and keep on playing hard and playing with passion, then they should be able to finish out the rest of conference play with all wins.
Well, Texas is 14-4 overall. They're 9-1 in conference play. This comes as no surprise for Jared Elliott's teams in the past, but in this year's squad, what specifically surprises you at this point in the season?
So success definitely is something that is embedded into this Texas volleyball team. It has been. For the past 7 seasons, Texas has won the Big 12. So success is just in their blood at this point. First of all, the biggest surprise was losing to Kansas, since that was their first loss in about 2 years in conference play. Not only was that surprising, but that the score was 1-3. Texas really wasn't on the track to winning in that series, and so since they did lose 1-3, it was a surprising loss. And also, if Texas was going to lose to a Big 12 team, one would expect it to be Baylor, since Baylor is number 21 and has been a rival for them a long time. And second, another surprising thing is that Texas has 8 sweeps this season. So that's more, so out of all their wins, 8 sweeps, that's more than just normal wins that they've had. So whenever Texas does show up and show out, they really do play hard and they come out with a sweep. And the third surprising factor is Micaiah White's success this season isn't the surprise, but that the stats she's been putting up have been exceeding expectations. She already has 252 kills and 165 digs. And she was the 2018 Big 12 Preseason Player of the Year, so she already has these high expectations set for her. So since she is able to exceed them, it just goes to show that Texas is full of surprises.
Well, the Horns have 6 regular season games left, all of those being Big 12 conference play. When you look at those remaining matchups, what do you think the biggest test is before the Horns have to get ready for NCAA tournament play?
There's definitely a lot of pressure on Texas right now, considering they're currently number 5, and they're seeking to get their 8th straight Big 12 conference win. And first of all, the biggest test is going to be playing Baylor on Waco on November 16th. That's going to be tough for Texas, considering they're 5-3 on away games, and so they're going to just have to not let the environment affect their play. And second, their next hardest game is going to be playing Kansas again on November 10th. Even though that is home, they're going to have to play with a clean slate and just forget about the loss they had to them earlier in October. And the other remaining teams in the Big 12, there really is no competition for Texas. The next highest ranked team after Baylor and Kansas is Tech, who is sitting at number 54 right now. So Texas is definitely unmatched in skill set in the Big 12. So if they are able to just play hard in every game and finish out the season with wins, then they should have a really good spot for the NCAA tournament.
Well, it should be an exciting finish to the regular season. Always great to be joined by Madison Hager. And if you want to catch the end of the remaining volleyball season, be sure to get the big ticket, where you can buy and you can purchase that at texassports.com. When we return, our very own Daniel Shee and Steve Helwick will join us for Unhooked, the news beyond the 40 acres.
Hi, welcome back to College Press Box. I am Steve Helwick alongside Thomas Fitch. Halloween is approaching, and a fair share of college football's top 25 teams got spooked out this weekend. We had 11 losses by the top 25, ranging from Texas to Florida to Washington to Wisconsin. Thomas, upsets everywhere, but which one surprised you the most this weekend?
For me, it was Oregon losing to Arizona in the Pac-12 after dark game. Oregon coming off obviously a loss to Washington State, but still 6-2 on the season. They were ranked. They had big wins against Washington and Cal. Arizona struggled early on this season, so that surprised me. Kevin Sumlin's kind of learned from his mistakes at A&M, starting off winning and losing at the end of the season. He's starting off losing and winning at the end of the season. Maybe that'll help him keep his job a little bit longer this time.
You were speaking about the Pac-12. Oregon looks out of the Pac-12 race at 2-3, but let's go to the farm to see a game that does have an impact on the Pac-12 North race. It is Wazoo versus Stanford on the farm. Let's go see what happened here. KJ Costello to Bryce Love. Washington State's defense is not feeling the love. Huge stop on 4th down on the former Heisman runner-up, Gardner Minshew. Washington State, 4th and 1. Mike Leach plays football like your cousin on 10-year-old playing Madden. Goes for every 4th down, but this one actually works. Minshew, usually a passer, gets this run, and it works out pretty well. Minshew has a great mustache, but even better out route. And the only defense being played on Stanford's campus tonight is by their admissions office. Next, Stanford, KJ Costello. Down 7, he's going to look deep. Open up my eager eyes, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. The receiver makes a clutch grab, ties the game at 38 apiece, and it is tied here at the farm. Gardner Minshew looks deep. Jameer Calvin, huge 35-yard reception to get it down to the 32. And Blake Mazza on the road to stay afloat of the Pac-12 North with a 42-yarder. Gets the nerves out of him, and it hooks inside the post to the left, and Washington State remains atop the Pac-12 North and ranks number 10 in the rankings. Let's cut it to Mizzou, Kentucky.
That's right, Missouri trying to play spoiler to Kentucky's hopes. They're going to start off Lynn Roundtree, the third 1-yard touchdown run. They'd be up 14-3 most of the second half. Here, 5.5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. This is Lynn Bowden Jr., not the normal punt returner for Kentucky, but he went up to Coach Stoops before this play and said, "Coach, I'm going to take this one to the house," and he does just that. 67 yards. Kentucky trails 14-9 after a missed 2-point attempt. 40 seconds to go in the game. Kentucky gets the ball back. Wilson's going to find David Bouvier for 2 receptions and take them down as time keeps going off the clock here. Wilson in the pocket, going to get sacked
by Therese Hall, setting up a 2nd and 18. And who else is Wilson going to find but Lynn Bowden Jr. Again, he's going to make it down to the 10 with 4 seconds left. So this last play of the game, possibly time ticking off the clock. Incompletion to Ahmad Wagner, 0 seconds on the clock. However, there is a flag, pass interference on the defense. That's going to give Kentucky one last shot. And on their last shot, 0 seconds on the clock, Wilson's going to find C.J. Conrad for the touchdown and keep Kentucky's SEC East title hopes alive. They'll travel to Georgia next week to try to keep those going. Now to a thriller in the Big Ten in Happy Valley, Penn State, Iowa. Here's the most Iowa play ever drawn up. A punter to a defensive lineman for a touchdown. Here's some more Iowa stereotypes here. Another safety, the Hawkeyes' 2nd of the game. It's so Iowa, 14-7 early over Penn State. Here, Nate Stanley throws an interception to John Reed. John Reed's going to get this pick. He's going to make a good read, cut across to the other side of the field. He has 6 points in mind, but he's going to be stopped at the 3 by Tristan Wirfs, the big man who will have more of an impact later on in the game. Tommy Stevens, Penn State's backup quarterback, scores there. But here, the starting quarterback, Trace McSorley, back from injury. He's turning into Trace McSorley with a 51-yard scamper, and Penn State is in business. Miles Sanders looking like Miles Standish, missing that ball as much as Miles Standish missed the Virginia coast on the Mayflower. Fumbles that ball, and Iowa recovers. Now, later, Penn State gets the ball back. Trace McSorley going to throw an interception to Geno Stone. Stone-cold interception. Going to be a stone-cold pick 6. Iowa back in the game. Iowa's not dead yet. Nate Stanley, 1st and goal. Chance to take the lead, and he throws an interception. His target wasn't looking, and Nick Scott takes over. Had 6 in mind, but was tripped up at the end. Iowa, one more shot. One more shot. Nate Stanley's going to find none other than big man Tristan Wirfs, 6'5", 320 pounds, trying to get the score and salvage them. Going to come up 29 yards short. And it took 4 Penn State guys to bring the big guy down. A lot of us thought he could have maybe got to the house, and I think he thought he was turning into Bo Jackson there. Penn State gets their 1st ranked win of the year. They take on Michigan next week to start November. And to start November, we have Penn State, Michigan, Georgia, Kentucky, and LSU, Alabama. Lots of good ranked matchups. Which one are you looking forward to most to start college football's final month of the regular season? Well, for me, it's got to be Bama, LSU. Bama's been very dominant this season, but they haven't really been tested yet. LSU's going to bring that, especially on the defensive side. It'll be interesting to see how LSU's offense can keep up with Tua and the rest of the Bama offense, but definitely will be a test for Bama. I think they still get the win, but should be a good game on Saturday night. It is basically a de facto SEC West title game, and we also have what I think is a de facto SEC East title game. Who will Alabama and LSU play? That should be Georgia, Kentucky. Kentucky's been a great surprise team earlier. You called it on the highlights. Huge win there. And can they beat Georgia? That could be a good one too, but college football in November, it doesn't get much better. Yeah, it should be a thrilling Saturday. When we come back, we go around the 40 acres to look at what else happened in UT Athletics, and our very own Daniel Sheik catches up with women's basketball's Danny Williams. You don't want to miss it.
For the final time tonight, we welcome you back into College Press Box. Luke Hendry alongside Nick Kuhlholz. Our TSTV crew was at the Chaparral Ice Center on Friday for the Texas hockey matchup between the Longhorns and the East Texas Baptist Tigers. Turner Barnes and Steve Helwick had the call.
Welcome into Austin, Texas. We are here at Chaparral Ice for a matchup between the 6-1-1 Texas Longhorns and the 4-2 East Texas Baptist University Tigers.
I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a great one here at Chaparral. We have 2 talented teams in the TCHC.
Behind the net, up at the point, throws it at the net, and that looks like a win in. That's a goal! And it looked like that pressure just finally paid off for the Longhorns. That has not been a rarity in this game. And the ATVU scores. Tries to flip it up and fans on it. And a good move in the right slot. Centering pass, and that's in the back of the net for the Longhorns.
Wow, impressive shot right there for Texas.
So the Tigers have a chance to go, and they're going to score. And he sandwiched into the boards. The Longhorns have a chance, and they score again! After what looked like a broken fast break, the Longhorns find the back of the net. All right, so Texas is already back in the zone, and they one-timer, another goal. 2 goals in probably less than 30 seconds for the Longhorns. Texas goes on and pulls out the win, 9-3. Texas Longhorns go away victorious.
The Longhorns hockey team wasn't the only sport here on campus that saw success this past weekend. The Texas women's soccer team kicked off Big 12 tournament play last night in Kansas City, Missouri, as they took on the Kansas Jayhawks. After both teams were held scoreless through regulation and extra time, the two teams went to penalty kicks, where the Burnt Orange would eventually go on to win 3-1 in those PKs and move on to the semifinals. The Horns now take on the West Virginia Mountaineers tonight, where they look to book their spot in the conference championship.
Texas softball improved this weekend to 4-0 in fall action. The Longhorns swept Weatherford College and St. Edwards in a doubleheader on Saturday. Sophomore pitchers Chloe Romero and Ariana Adams combined to shut out Weatherford College in Game 1. Senior pitcher Brooke Bollinger and freshman Shea O'Leary teamed up to hold St. Edwards scoreless. Texas will continue fall ball against Galveston and Blinn on Wednesday.
The Texas men's and women's cross-country teams were both in action this Friday in Ames, Iowa for the Big 12 championships. The men's team finished 3rd overall, marking their 7th top 3 conference finish in the last 8 seasons. Senior Alex Rogers and sophomore Sam Worley finished 7th and 8th overall respectively, while redshirt junior John Rice finished 14th. The 3 runners earned all Big 12 honors for their performances. The women's finished 5th overall as a team and were led by junior Destiny Collins, who finished the race in 4th individually. Both the men's and women's are back in action on November 9th for the NCAA South Central Regional in College Station, Texas.
Texas men's golf finished 6th at the Travis Stock Collegiate Invitational. The Longhorns were led by senior Steven Chevroni. He caught a rounds of 71, 68, 75 to finish at 2 under par and tied 14th. Senior Drew Jones also finished in the top 20 with a 3-day total of even par. Texas will now wait for the spring season to start February 7th through 9th at the Amur Ari Invitational in Hawaii.
This past weekend, the Texas women's tennis team competed in the River Oaks Invitational in Houston, Texas. The Horns posted a total of 11 wins throughout the 3-day tournament, and after struggling on Friday in the opening round of the competition, Texas rallied back the rest of the weekend by picking up 5 wins alone on Saturday and a clean 3-0 sweep on Sunday. This week, starting today and going all the way through Saturday, junior All-American Bianca Turati leads the 6th-ranked Longhorns in the 80K Tyler Tournament in East Texas.
Now it's time to check out what some Longhorn sports are underway this coming week. Wednesday, Halloween, we got some action in softball, a doubleheader, Galveston College and Blinn College coming to Austin, and volleyball taking on TCU later that evening. That game can be caught on LHN. Friday, swimming versus Texas A&M, and soccer up at the Big 12 Championship in Kansas City. Saturday, as we talked about earlier in the show, the 12th-ranked Mountaineers coming to Austin, a 2:30 kick at DKR. That game will be on Fox. And on Sunday, wrapping up the weekend, softball, we'll have a little fun with the alumni. At 11 a.m., that game can be caught on LHN.
The Texas women's basketball team was back in action Sunday afternoon in an exhibition game against West Texas A&M at the Frank Irwin Center. And with the departures of Ariel Atkins and Brooke McCarty, there are plenty of new faces on Coach Karen Aston's squad. Freshman Charlie Collier wasted no time making her presence felt, scoring 21 points and grabbing 11 boards, leading the team in both of those categories, all in just 20 minutes of action. West Texas A&M kept the game close for a while, but Texas would go on to outscore their opponents by 15 points in the 3rd quarter and eventually cruise to a 91-63 victory. But another new face on the team this season is a former rival of the Horns. Daniel Shee has more on graduate transfer Danny Williams.
The 2018 edition of Texas Tip-Off was the first time that featured the Texas women's basketball team, and one player took the spotlight. Danny Williams represented the women's basketball team in the 3-point contest against the men's and took Matt Coleman to the extra round before the winner was declared. Comparing to her teammates on the women's basketball team, Danny Williams had a unique path to the 40 acres. Williams played 3 years under Gary Blair at College Station. Wearing the A&M uniform, Williams became only the 30th Aggie to score 1,000 career points. In her senior year, she made 71 3-pointers, the most in a single season by an Aggie. After the historical season, Danny Williams joined the Texas Longhorns this summer as a graduate transfer, and she immediately noticed the difference in acclimating with the new team as a senior member of the group.
It is a little different being a graduate transfer just because you have that experience playing at the college level, and so, you know, that can carry over, but it's a whole new program, a whole new city, and so that takes time to adjust and get used to the players and the coaches, and so it's been an adjustment, but I've enjoyed it so far.
Texas head coach Karen Aston also hopes Danny Williams can have a big impact on this Texas squad, but she doesn't ignore the unique impact of being a graduate transfer compared to her freshman.
You know, I mean, if she stood out there and with no one guarding her, she would make 9 out of 10 most times, but I think everybody in the country knows who Danny is. There's a lot of film on her. So even though she's a newcomer to Texas, people know she can shoot the ball, so her being able to do some different things than maybe she's done in the past, I think is very important for her to embrace.
At the end of the interview, I asked Williams a question every fan in the state of Texas wants to know. Longhorns or Aggies?
I don't know, I can't decide, but I'm here at Texas, so I'm going to say hook 'em.
Danny Williams and the Longhorns will open the regular season on November 8th at 7 p.m. against Duquesne in the Frank Irwin Center. From the Cooley Pavilion in Austin, Texas, I'm Daniel Shi, TSTV Sports.
Thanks so much to Daniel Shi for that story. Nick, can you imagine transferring from Texas A&M to Texas as an athlete?
It's especially weird with Williams coming from A&M to Texas. Texas has their primary rival in Oklahoma. Not to say that the Horns are a big fan of the Aggies. They certainly aren't, but it feels like the hatred for A&M is far more for Texas than it is for the Horns, vice versa, towards the Aggies. But Danny Williams is going to be big for Texas, losing McCarty, losing Ariel Atkins. I'll be curious to see how she plays for the Horns this year.
I can tell you, Karen Aston, certainly glad to have Danny Williams a part of the program, a sharpshooter from behind the arc. That is all we're going to have for you tonight. And once again, thanks so much for joining us. Follow TSTV Sports on social media throughout the year for your latest Longhorn sports coverage. And join us right here every Monday night for College Press Box. College Crossfire with Jonathan Polosic airs Wednesdays at 9. From all of us here in studio and Master Control, a special thanks to you for spending your Monday night with us. Until next time, good night.